Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I just have a few questions for you, Tony. When did you start writing?
It was about 2005, 2006 I started writing in earnest, when I started writing stories. Although I have written a few little stories before then, but always been interested in writing. So 2006 really started writing seriously.
Right. And why did you start writing?
Well, I had all these stories, all these ideas in my head, and they come from nowhere. And I thought, I just had to get them down on paper. And once I started getting them down on paper, I became kind of a bit obsessed with it, really.
Have you been inspired by particular writers, and what sort of books do you like to read?
I like a number of different books, from Pi to Watership Down. I love C.J. Sampson and the Shard Lake series. I like those historical mysteries. Yeah.
Is that the sort of thing that you like to write about?
They're not particularly historical, though I like to have historical themes. Sometimes I have my characters go back into the past, and I like writing about that. But they're not historical novels, no.
So how do you go about starting to write a book?
Well, I kind of I don't know where the actual ideas come from, but they all of a sudden appear, and I think about a place. It may be a distant shore or an island or somewhere like that, and then I kind of like create a story around it. I don't necessarily have an idea for a book. Mm-hmm. It doesn't actually work like that with me.
But do you sort of visualise or daydream the scenes as you go along?
Yes, yeah. When I'm actually writing, and I've got the idea for the book, and then I kind of imagine myself there. I'm actually the character, or whoever whoever's in the scene. I'm that character, and I write from there. So I do daydream in a way.
And talking of dreaming, at night time, do you actually dream about the story? Does it come into your mind at?
I wished it did, because on those moments when you just close your eyes, I think, right, and especially if I'm struggling a little bit with the plot, mm-hmm. I always close my eyes thinking that I'm going to come up with some marvellous sort of like route, out of wherever I'm stuck. And but it never happens. I always fall asleep. I mean, sometimes I hope that the magic of the night, someone somewhere is going to receive a message and show me the way. It doesn't actually work like that, but it might do. Perhaps because the next day I always sort of find, I always find my way out of whatever predicament I'm in.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you journal, or have you ever journaled?
Yeah, I used to journal a lot. Every day I used to have a big A4 diary, and I used to write every day in it, and fill up these huge volumes of stuff that I'd done. Mm-hmm. I don't do it so much now. It's probably because I'm writing all the time. But I don't know actually whether it actually helps with the writing. Mm. Yeah. Do
you keep a notebook about, as you go along with the book, not a personal journal, but notes?
Yeah, I do. I'm probably not as diligent as I should be, because I should carry a notebook with me all the time. I know some authors do, but I do have a scribble pad, because sometimes if I get a little bit stuck on the what I'm writing about, I sit down and I just put the laptop to one side, and I scribble down different scenarios with my characters, just in case I come up to move on the story.
Yes. So do you have a beginning, a middle, and an end in mind? Or?
No, no. I wished I did. I never have an end. I always have a beginning. I always imagine my characters in a foreign place, or a different house, or whatever. But I don't. I wished I did, but I don't. I literally, as soon as I start writing, I let the characters and the story move along on its own. It's.
Do you like the descriptive narrative, or do you prefer the dialogue, or is it a mix of both?
I like the dialogue best,
Right.
but once I'm into the descriptive narrative, I can't enjoy that. But I usually get my dialogue out the way first, so I do descriptive narrative as I move the story along. Obviously it's necessary, but the dialogue I get down first, because I find that the most exciting, really.
Yes.
And enjoyable, you know, the interaction between the characters. And the descriptive narrative, I like doing that in the edit, because as I, you know, read through the draft, I think of, you know, of descriptions of either people or places, and I embellish them a little bit more, and that's quite fun. But yeah, I prefer the dialogue, actually.
Oh, brilliant. How long are your books?
They're quite long. They're usually over 100,000 words.
Oh.
And yeah, so they're quite big chunky doorstops.
How long does that take? How many hours do you put in, and how do you find the time?
Well, I know this is a bit nerdy, but I actually worked it out. It's roughly about 500 hours for a book. And that's just the writing, and then there's the editing, which can take some time. So probably about 3 months to write it, and then another month of editing. So about 4 months for a book. It works out roughly between 1,000 and 1,500 words per day, or about 6 or 7 hours a day.
Where do you write? Do you have a preferred place, or?
Yeah. I prefer to lounge in a big comfy settee with lots of cushions. I'm not an office writer. I don't find sitting up and, you know, upright as you would do in an office very comfortable. You know, it's probably really bad for my posture, but I'm quite a slouch couch potato writer.
Oh, I see. So what's the best time of the day for you? And do you have many coffee breaks? And
Yeah. Well, it depends who's making the coffee. But,
of course.
but yeah, I like to have a bit of a comfortable morning. You know, get breakfast out of the way, which usually takes about 3 hours, and you know, coffee then, and then I settle down to write just after lunch. So it's around about 12:30.
So it's
1 o'clock.
A routine of such, is it?
Oh yes, it is a routine, and it can go on till 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
But there are breaks, obviously, because you have, you know, dinner, and so, you know, I have to get out of the couch sooner or later. You know.
Of course. Are you easily distracted during the day?
Yeah, I can be. I can be. I don't necessarily have to have silence, but I can get distracted. I get distracted if I hear lyrics of songs, although I do listen to music, but it has to be instrumental music with very, very few lyrics and no adverts, because if it's got adverts, I listen to the adverts. I can't help it. It doesn't matter how rubbish the adverts are, I just get distracted. So yeah, I like listening to music, but yeah, I can get distracted. Right. But not often, because I really get into the story. So.